Once upon a time in a faraway land, there lived a man named Abraham. Now, Abraham was a very righteous man. He was honest, kind, and always did what was right. But he had one big problem. He was very, very old, and he didn't have any children. And so he prayed to God and asked him to give him a son. God heard Abraham's prayer, but he didn't answer right away. In fact, he made Abraham wait for many, many years. And during that time, Abraham's wife, Sarah, got impatient and said, "God promised to give me a son, but he's taking too long. I can't wait any longer." So she told Abraham, "You have to do something. We need a baby, and we need one right now." Abram thought about this for a moment. He didn't want to disobey God, but he also really wanted a son. And so he went back to God and asked him to give him a sign. "If you give me a son, I will be so happy. But if you don't, I won't bother you anymore with my requests." God saw how desperate Abraham was, and he felt sorry for him. So he gave Abraham a sign, a very special sign. He told him to leave his home and travel to a distant land. There, at a mountain called Moriah, he would find a ram and sacrifice that ram instead of sacrificing his own son. Now, Abraham was very happy when he heard this. He knew that God had answered his prayer. And so he packed up his things and started his journey. Along with him, he brought his wife, Sarah, and his son, Isaac, whom God had given him when he was very old. As they traveled, Isaac carried the wood for the sacrifice, while Abraham carried the knife, and Sarah walked behind them, wondering why they were going to Moriah. The journey took many days, and by the time they arrived at the mountain, both Isaac and Sarah were very tired. But when they reached the top of the mountain, they saw the most beautiful field with lots of grass and flowers. And Abraham thought, "This is the perfect place for a sacrifice." He told Isaac to stay there and watch over the wood, while he and Sarah went to find a ram to sacrifice. But when Abraham looked around, he couldn't find a ram anywhere. All he saw was a very cute little lamb all by itself. And Abraham thought, "Well, this lamb is so cute. I can't possibly sacrifice him." So he decided to keep looking for a ram, even though it was starting to get dark. After a while, he came across a bush full of thorns. And when he looked inside the bush, guess what he saw? Another very cute little lamb. Abraham thought, "Oh, this lamb is so tiny. I can't hurt him." So he kept searching for a ram. But all he found were cute lambs, and he didn't want to sacrifice any of them. Finally, he heard a voice that said, "Abraham, I know you love animals, but I want you to sacrifice your son, Isaac." Abraham was very surprised to hear this, because he thought he had already made arrangements to sacrifice a ram. But then he remembered that God had given him a sign, and he realized that the sign had come true. He had found the ram to sacrifice, and so he went back to Isaac and told him what he had to do. Isaac was very scared, but he knew that his father loved him very much. And if his father thought that he had to sacrifice him, then that's what he would do. And so they built an altar and placed the wood on it. Then Abraham took Isaac, bound him with ropes, and laid him on the altar. Just as Abraham was about to sacrifice his son, he heard a voice that said, "Abraham, you have shown great faith. You have done the right thing." And just like that, God took Isaac and turned him into a ram. Then he told Abraham to sacrifice the ram instead. Abraham was so happy when he heard this. He had found the ram to sacrifice, and he didn't have to sacrifice his son. And so he named that place Peniel, which means the face of God, because that's where he had seen God's face and heard his voice. From that day on, Abraham never asked God for anything again. Instead, he trusted God completely and knew that God would take care of him and his family. The end.